Hello, everybody. Now it's time to listen to chapter 8 in the story about John, and the chapter is called Off to Africa. By February 1908, John and Tom started to think about South Africa. God had said that they would be going in the springtime. This meant they had a big hurdle to cross first. They had no money. "How much will it cost, John, to take all of us to South Africa?" Tom asked. John replied, $2,000. This was a huge amount of money. It would be the same as spending around $50,000 today. Tom and John knew they would have to ask God for the money. So after praying together for some time, Tom stood up. He slapped John on the back and then he said, "Don't pray anymore, John. Jesus told me that he will send us that $2,000 and that it will be here in 4 days." Exactly 4 days later, Tom came back from the post office and threw $2,000 onto the table. "Here is the answer to our prayers," Tom shouted. "Jesus has sent it and we are going to Africa." The man who sent the money also sent a letter to them. In the letter he wrote, "While I was standing in the bank at Monrovia in California, the Lord told me to send you this money. The money is yours for you to do whatever God has told you to do with it." John took the money and bought the tickets for South Africa. So, as God had told John, they were ready to go to South Africa. So in April of 1908, John, his wife Jenny, and their 7 children, together with Tom's family and 3 other friends, set off for South Africa. Although John used to be a millionaire, he had given it all away. Now he only had $1.50. This was all the money he had to pay for anything that they needed while they were on their way to Africa. They all got on a train to get to the boat. As their train left the station, a young man ran next to the train and threw $2 into the train. Now the Lake family had $3.50. John knew they needed more money. One of his workers had decided to join them for the first part of the journey. She had only a ticket to get as far as Detroit. John knew he would have to pay for her to do the rest of the journey, even though it cost $10. John spoke to Jenny. "We've got to pay for her ticket and we don't have the money. Let's ask God." So John and Jenny, they told God what they needed and they asked him to give it. As usual, they did not tell anyone else about their need, only God. When they got to Detroit, some friends were waiting for them there to say goodbye. One friend took John by the arm and walked with him across the station. Then he looked at John and he said, "I don't know why, but all day long I have felt in my heart that I would like to give you this." And then he reached into his pocket. He pulled out a $10 bill and put it into John's pocket. John thanked the man, turned around, and used the money to buy a ticket for his worker. Now, with the $3.50 that John had, he bought some food for his family to eat while they were traveling on the next train to St. John in Canada. They got on a boat to Liverpool, England. Even though John had so little money, when he got off the boat in England, he gave half of it to their waiter as a tip to thank him for looking after them. In Liverpool, all of their expenses were paid for by the transportation company because they had to wait there for a week until they could get on another boat. By this time, they had been traveling for a good few days, and Jenny wanted to get some of their clothes washed. She spoke to John because she knew that they did not have any money. John told her to send the clothes to the laundry, and they would hope that God would give the money before they left. John was so busy preparing everything else that he completely forgot about the clothes. On their final night in Liverpool, as they were going to bed, Jenny asked him about it. "I forgot," he said. "I'm so sorry." "John, you are a typical man. Let me tell you what happened. I already knew that you did not have the money, and I didn't have it either, so I decided to pray about it. After I had prayed, I felt that I should go to the laundry and find out exactly how much it was going to cost. I found it was $1.65. On my way back to the hotel, a man came up to me on the street and he said, "Excuse me, but I feel I should give you this," he said. And then he gave me some coins. I went straight back to the laundry, counted at the money, and paid for the washing. The man had given me exactly $1.65. John and Jenny were so happy. This was one of those little things that helped them to know that God was with them. Once more, the whole group got on a train and traveled from Liverpool to London, where they were going to get on the final boat and travel all the way to Cape Town in South Africa. On the boat, John only had 20 cents left. The ship stopped at Madeira, and John used his last bit of money to buy fruit for his children on the island. They would be landing in South Africa with not even a cent to their name. John knew they had one more challenge ahead of them. Anyone who landed in South Africa had to show the immigration inspectors that they owned at least $125. If they did not have the money, they would be sent straight back home. He and Jenny prayed about this until John had peace in his heart about it. It took over a week for them to get to Cape Town in South Africa. When the boat finally arrived, the immigration inspector came on board and the passengers all lined up to show their money and be given a ticket that would let them to get off the boat. Jenny did not know what they were going to do. John knew they were obeying God, so God would take care of them. "I am going to get in the line with everyone else," John said to Jenny. "We have obeyed God so far. Now it is up to God. If they send us back, then there is nothing more we can do." As John stood in the line, one of the other passengers touched John on the shoulder. He called him out of the line over to the side of the ship to talk with him. John followed and they spoke for a few minutes. The man then gave him $200. John stepped back into the line, showed the money to the immigration inspector, and was given the tickets so that they would be allowed into South Africa. Of course, that was not the end of the challenges. Remember, John and Jenny had 7 children, not much money, and no home to sleep in. There were 9 of them, and the children needed to be looked after. As with everything else on the journey, they were simply trusting God to give them a home. After all, if God had called them to South Africa, God would give them what they needed. That was how John and Jenny had chosen to live. They were faith missionaries. They did not have people back home who had agreed to give them money. Instead, they depended only on God. The whole party got on a train to Johannesburg, where God had told them to go. Tom was the first off the train, and a little woman came up to him. "Are you a group of American missionaries?" she asked him. "We are," Tom told her. "How many of you are there?" "Well, in my family, there are 4 of us," Tom said. "No," she said, "you're not the family I'm looking for. Do you happen to know if there is another family?" "Well, there is Mr. Lake over there." The lady looked at John. "How many are in your family?" John replied, "There's me, my wife, and our 7 children." The woman cried out, "You are the family!" John had no idea what the lady was talking about. "God sent me here to meet you," the lady explained, "and I want to give you a home." John knew he could not afford a home that would be big enough for the whole family, so he told the lady that he would not be able to pay her any money. "We are faith missionaries, and we have no money to pay rent with." "Oh, don't worry about the rent," the lady said. "God wants you to have a home, so it is yours." The lady's name was Mrs. C.L. Goodenough. It sounds made up, doesn't it? But that was her real name. She had obeyed God, and through her obedience, God had given the family what they needed. That very afternoon, John, Jenny, and her family were living in a home complete with furniture. God was clearly with them for the whole of their journey, but God had not called them to South Africa to bless them. No, He had called them there to see lives changed and souls saved.